welcome to Comic-Con at Home 2021. I'm Richard Newby, writer for Fangoria and The Hollywood Reporter, and this is the panel for the highly anticipated fourth installment of VHS found footage franchise, VHS 94, coming to audiences this fall exclusively on Shudder. Without further ado, let's get to our panelists. First up, we have producers Josh Goldbloom and Brad Miska. And we have our franchise veterans, writer-director Simon Barrett and writer-director Timo Tjahjanto. Hey, guys.
Hi, guys.
And we also have our VHS newcomers, writer-director Chloe Okuno, writer-director Ryan Prows, and writer-director Jennifer Reeder. Welcome, everybody. So first off, I want to talk to the producers a little bit about VHS 94. So could you tell us a little bit about the premise of this installment?
That's a bit of a loaded question. That's something that we could pivot to Jennifer about, since Jennifer directed the wraparound. But I mean, to sum it up, it's about a SWAT raid gone wrong, there's a lot of VHS tapes. Some gnarly things happen, and I think the directors can explain a little bit more about what those gnarly things might be.
Awesome. So let's hear from the directors. Can you guys tease us a little bit with the premises of each of your installments?
Sure. I'll go first. Mine takes place in a funeral home with a young kind of new employee is asked to kind of officiate an overnight wake and record the proceedings for the deceased memorial video. And that's why someone would be creating a videotape of something scary happening in the year 1994, in my case.
I'll go next. Mine is about a local TV news reporter who is doing a story investigating this local legend of this mysterious figure called the Rat Man. So she and her cameraman go to do this story and enter into a storm drain. And obviously things unravel from there.
Mine's called Terror, and it's about a lovable militia goofs who get their hands on a supernatural element that they plan to use as a weapon to, of course, fell the U.S. government, and scary hilarity ensues.
Mine's titled The Subject, and mine will be about like a Dr. Frankenstein-like mad scientist who's creating this experimental creature, and all hell breaks loose when a bunch of cops sort of like enters the facility and start to sort of like execute their own brand of justice. And it's going to be a cat and mouse between something inside there and these cops. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the wraparound, which I understand coming into this project notoriously has been the most disliked aspect of so many of the VHSs, but I hope I've risen to the occasion, to the challenge. But in this case, yeah, it's a sort of a daffy SWAT, like a SWAT drug unit that enters a warehouse expecting to find a super lab, and they find something super, but it's a different kind of lab peddling a very a kind of contraband, much more deadly than the sort of typical drug on the street.
Awesome. So, for the first time in the franchise, segments in VHS 94 will build towards one larger story. So Josh and Brad, I'm curious about how you guys worked with the other filmmakers to ensure a fluid narrative.
Honestly, that was hard. That was a lot of David Bruckner early on. We've been working on this for a couple of years now. Maybe even started this conversation as a potential series, and then we reworked it into how we would do like the next film. I just remember a long time ago Simon saying like, maybe it's too soon to do VHS 3. And he was maybe right. So it was kind of nice to have like a little breathing room and having not really done much for a while and then come back, re-energized and excited about it. And we were just trying to find different ways of approaching the content to make it feel fresh, because after we did VHS 2 and 3, like that formula sort of got picked over, and we saw it in other films, and it's been done, in different ways, but similarly, and it's cool. And I love the anthology format, but I think if we did it again, we wanted to try and do something different. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because the device is literally putting a tape in. So how do you put a tape in and then also keep it seamless and have it all be part of the same sort of world and universe? And Josh got really mixed in on that too, and really, really, really helped us sort of bringing that together. If you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's hundreds, or what feels like hundreds of hours of conversations.
Yeah.
We went through, I don't know, like 4 or 5 scripts, just trying to find that interconnectivity and just kind of really elevate what we perceive, the anthology to be and what it can potentially be. And so I think, you'll definitely find some crossover here throughout the segments of like different characters and locations, and little hints and Easter eggs throughout. But yeah, I think for us, it's just kind of, we looked at the anthology as just kind of a playground that hasn't really been explored to its fullest. And it's a lot of it is just kind of like what can we pull out of this, and how do we connect the dots? It's not easy. It's a very collaborative effort, but obviously there's a lot of creative people involved here. So I think yeah, it's a lot of teamwork, right? It's a lot of conversations, but I think it's come together in a very special way.
For the filmmakers, I'm curious about how your previous directing experiences prepared you for this shoot. Were you influenced by any particular styles of horror when directing these particular segments?
I can say for me, this is the first found footage movie I've done, which is really exciting, but also kind of daunting, because a lot of the things that you would normally fall back on, you just can't really do as easily in found footage. For my one, people have done the sort of like news reporter thing before. One of my favorite found footage movies is Wreck. And I thought just the way that they orchestrated that kind of like single camera, like almost continuous real time approach was really inspiring. And I don't know if we sort of like are at that level. That movie's amazing, but that was certainly one of the bigger inspirations for me.
We're at that level.
Oh yeah, sorry, we're at that level. I forgot.
Beyond that level? Question
mark. For me, I do have extensive. I have my experience directing part of VHS 2 to fall back on pretty, concretely, I should say, but then also working on the Blair Witch sequel and the first VHS wraparound, as well as the segments directed by Adam Wingard and Joe Swanberg. Adam did the first wraparound. And so for me, I was actually kind of trying to think of things that I specifically hadn't done or hadn't seen done, and also was kind of trying to second guess what people would want. I knew what my placement was going to be in this anthology, so I was trying to kind of also second guess kind of what people would want there, just based on my experience. But the real reason I was excited to come back to this series and be involved in this project, when David and Brad and Josh presented it to me, in addition to telling me, some of the directors who were going to be involved, was the notion that this new VHS sequel was going to be different, and that we were theming it around a year, that we were setting it around the year 1994 specifically. I think just because honestly, David Bruckner enjoys the technology of that year, but that is a really cool and interesting challenge, the 1994 of it all. Video does have a scary look when you go back and currently, in a way that film doesn't. Film warms things up and softens them and makes them pretty, and video makes them harsh and ugly, and somehow you lose the pretty details. So that was exciting to me as well. So just thinking about the technological challenges, honestly, was a huge part of what shaped my piece and the decision to shoot The Empty Wake the way that I did.
mean, like Chloe, this is my first, found footage film, but I was thinking about a kind of a mashup of Cronenberg's Videodrome, and just, like Simon was saying, I mean, the sort of like the amateur video of 1994 is extremely significant, right? This was the year that Nancy Kerrigan got whacked in the knee. This is the year of OJ's Bronco chase. This is, just after, David Koresh, Branch Davidian, Waco fire. It's just before Heaven's Gate, which used video extensively. I just think it, I was trying to think about, a combination of established, non-found footage filmmakers who leaned into sort of like meta, like video within a video within a video, but also thinking about 1994. I mean, even certainly, the footage around Kurt Cobain's death. 1994 seemed like it was really a year where amateur video became the kind of reporting source. And that wacky amateur framing, was also really significant. I mean, it was just a window into kind of what was happening, culturally and socially and politically. So that's sort of like how I approached my section.
I was looking at a lot of like documentary stuff, like, I don't know, they're like militia specific. There's this hysterical, scary as hell doc from like, I think it was like a HBO thing or something that was like called Skinhead USA from kind of around that time. And there's a newer one called Welcome to Leith. And just Simon's right on of like, and I hadn't really put that together too much, but like the video-ness of it makes it even that much more scary. As opposed to like, they've got these big budgets, they're doing film doc stuff. So yeah, just trying to kind of approach it of like, from that time of them, of who's telling their story and who's putting it together, and kind of trying to figure out like a cool way into, or like a fun way for me to kind of get into the found footages of it, of like, where is the origin, or who's the storyteller within the story itself was like a really fun challenge. And just being privy, kind of, I was a little bit later coming into the process, so being privy of like how far down the line or the road they were on the wraparound stuff. And Simon and Chloe already had their pieces written together, and like, or put together, written, and that was like a really cool, I feel like a little bit of a cheat code too, of like, I got to see kind of, them already start rolling the ball and try and catch up to them.
So basically I just remembered like, I think it's 10 years ago, damn, like time passed, but 10 years ago, like I did shot my segment for VHS2 with Gareth, and I just remember learning a lot from him at that time. And it was also the fun of doing something. I'm not saying like I'm doing big stuff now, but like it felt really indie at the time. It felt really filthy and ruthless and even to some extent health endangering, and like I kind of miss that feeling. So like I've like I'm fortunate enough to be able to do some commercials like during COVID and all that stuff, but I was really dying to sort of do, okay, what if I go back to the root? Like I love that kind of like filthy way of filmmaking, like the grunginess and all that stuff. And like to support what Ryan said, like there's something really terrifying about doing it in the actual year of 94, where, like HD technology hasn't existed yet, like, I mean, like if we look back at the previous VHSs, like even though the medium is VHS, but because like a lot of us shot it in HD, so it still felt kind of brand new. So I think in an ironic way, like the latest VHS will be probably the grungiest looking. I could be wrong, but like it just felt that way, like, and like the other previous film, like the other filmmakers said, like if we think about like this grungy sort of footage, we think back about what we saw when we were younger, like Faces of Death and all that stuff. And it felt really culty and sort of like mythical and really, like gutter road VHS culture, like, and I think we want to achieve that. And so, basically I'm just kind of like eager to go back to the berserk bloodlust mode, so that's all I got going for, nothing deep, nothing profound, just urge to go mayhem before I grow too old and too comfortable for this,
And to everybody's point too, and we're super thankful to Shudder for allowing us to do it, but we went very era authentic with this iteration of VHS. So, we did a lot of camera tests, and we're shooting at 29 frames per second, which, either means like you're broke or you found a camera at like a pawn shop from like 1993. Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot of fun stuff too with like filters and actual like physical tape transfers to give it that VHS 94 look. But we're certainly not using like any sort of crazy like new age cameras. We're going back in time a little bit to make this look as authentic as possible, and it's pretty rad that Shudder caught on to that and understood what we were trying to do artistically.
And then you get to stream it
on your phone.
On your phone.
Jennifer, Ryan, and Chloe, as newcomers to the franchise, I'd love to hear a little bit about your personal history with the VHS movies before joining the fourth film.
I feel like I saw like the first one around the time I was in college. My friends and I would just, get really drunk and watch horror movies. And that was always a good time. But yeah, I mean, I've always been a big fan. I remember I was a massive fan of the filmmakers on this project. So like coming on board, that was one of the things that was so exciting to me. Like, I love Simon, I love The Guest, I love David Bruckner and Radio Silence, and like Timo, like Safe Haven still blows my mind. I was in the edit room of my feature, and we have this tradition on Fridays now. My editor and I we're like get beers and just like watch the cut. And after we were done with that, I was like, Michael, I have to show you this movie, Safe Haven. And we watched it together, and it's just it's as up and amazing as I remembered it. So
Jennifer and Ryan, how about you guys? Did you have a prior experience with the VHS films?
I mean, I think I might seem like a little bit of like an outlier because, maybe the films that I make seem really different than the films that I like to consume. I mean, the films that I watch, it's like a really, really, really broad spectrum. And then the films that I make tend to be seen as art house or, leaning into the more surreal aspect of horror, more Argento than Carpenter or something like this. But at the same time, I think that what I like to watch is a really broad spectrum. And so when I was approached to think about doing this, I wanted to enter this world, right? Like, it's like this, the VHS world has this great reputation, and there's, they've got super fans. Like, who doesn't want to insert themselves into, the view of the super fans. And, I felt like I was encouraged to also, bring myself to this project. And so I think that you'll find in the wraparound, it might be, I don't know. Like, I think that the people who have seen a lot of my films will like see me in the wraparound. And all along though, I think that, the team, the production team, the writing teams, the cast and crew, it's been like a really, pretty incredible experience, especially doing this still during a pandemic, You know, I mean, let's not forget about that part, you know, that making a film, making like all of these sections, there was a lot of moving parts. And when Josh asked me if I would be interested in becoming part of the VHS family, I said, yes, immediately. And I don't regret that.
So I know this was shot during the pandemic, so I'm curious about how your experiences affected the shoot of this.
I think like the day we brought it to Canada, they went into lockdown and they never opened back up. And it just got harder and harder.
We did not bring it, though. Be clear. Not patient zero. Those do not correlate.
So Chloe and Simon, you guys, it was like 2 weeks you guys had to quarantine in a hotel room and they would check your phones and
Yeah, we did. We each did 2 weeks in a Holiday Inn.
Yeah, but you had it like by the time Jennifer went over, the restrictions were like, I mean, she was vaccinated and it was like even harder than ever before.
Yeah, but when I went over, you know, the whole of Ontario had gone back into shelter in place. So
you were the only one that had to stay at like a government mandated hotel by the time.
Me?
Yeah, for like the first 3 days.
Yeah. But even then so trying to prepare a film, you know, where, for instance, like the production designer, the costume designer, the makeup people, even the like makeup effects and special effects, stores in Ontario had removed anything that they didn't think was essential, you know, from the shelves. So, you know, just with the costumer talking to her about like, let's get a pack of like 5 white shirts, you know, because they have to be drenched in blood at some point. And she said, well, you know, this big box store actually has literally removed everything from the shelves except for what they deem essential. So everything has to be shipped, including, you know, special, you know, makeup or blood, like you know, like prepping for a film when the entire of Ontario had then suddenly, like probably a week before I went there, had gone back into shelter in place was also pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, I had props that I was like, I mean, everything, like Jennifer just said, everything had to be delivered. The only places that were open when we were filming there, Ryan, Chloe, and I, because we were in a slightly different block, were, you know, drugstores, grocery stores, but everything else had to be delivered. And I remember like feverishly like checking with my production designer to see like if a prop had arrived like every day, because if it didn't, I didn't have like a plan B. And, you know, because we couldn't, like, mail was really slow, we couldn't reorder anything. So that was a bonus challenge. But, you know, every film has its things, I guess.
Yeah, Chloe, you lost one of your like co-leads, right? Like a couple days.
Oh my God, that was the worst. Yeah, like a day, I think it was like a day before our shoot. The guy who we cast as our cameraman, who was the co-lead of the movie, had to drop out because he was exposed to someone with COVID on another set, and he had to immediately quarantine. And literally like 20 minutes after I got that call, I got a call from the feature that I was about to do that my lead actress had also dropped out. So that was a fun night in the Holiday Inn.
Brad, I'm curious, you know, with everything going on in the world right now, you know, what makes now, you know, the right time to bring the VHS franchise back?
It's timely, obviously, but like, I don't think the idea was like that this is political in any way. I think it's just the idea that horror like is cathartic, and like, you know, what's going on in the world, it gives you a lot of inspiration and ideas of how you're thinking about, you know, what's going on in the world and how horrific it is, and the dual edged sword of it all. And with horror, it's just fun to sort of play around with that. And like, for me, like, I don't like when like the commentary is too like heavy and on the nose, but like it's in ours, you know, like it inspired us and stuff. But I don't think we're trying to like make any like bold proclamations or anything like that.
I think for a lot of people, it's like, you know, you come full circle, right? Like I think a lot of the filmmakers here, or a few of the filmmakers are coming full circle. And, you know, you saw VHS set up a lot of, you know, filmmakers' careers. And, you know, it's like I said, it's just a fun playground to be a part of.
Well, you know, I get random messages from people. Well, it stopped recently for obvious reasons, but I used to get random messages from people like once a week, basically asking if, you know, if there was ever going to be another VHS film. You know, I do feel like there's appetite for the kind of grungy, you know, like the type of kind of unsafe feeling horror that we were trying to create back then. You know, I'm not certain that specific style has come back into vogue, but I think people are ready to see kind of what the modern version of that is. And I specifically think, you know, like I'm super excited Timo's back, but working with like Jennifer and Chloe and Ryan, who have like a totally new, fresh, different perspective. You know, that specifically was kind of what excited me to be involved in this, because I think people want another VHS movie, but I think they don't want just like another of necessarily the same thing we were doing. This to me, like when I heard what David and Brad and Josh were thinking, this to me felt exactly like how to give people what they want while still surprising them with a fresh approach. So, you know, so that's always in the back of my mind too, is just that fans do enjoy these movies. You know, for you know, for whatever reason, you know, we have been really blessed with a fan base for these films. So, you know, that is something that you do have to be grateful for, and you know, you do kind of strive to reward as an artist.
I mean,
like
honestly,
Jennifer said earlier.
I know it's a weird thing to say, but I'm like actually a fan of our own films. I just like the short format. I think it's fun. You go in, you get out. You don't have to fill it with, you could just kind of get to it. And I really like that aspect of it. And, you know, just getting back into that and being able to do something just like quick and fun and breezy and getting to work with multiple filmmakers. It's so cool. Sorry, I keep swearing. I'm not like that normally, but today I am.
We keep saying the name David. That's David Bruckner.
David Bruckner,
He
yeah.
couldn't be with us tonight because he's shooting something called Hellraiser that nobody will care about.
Not really on people's radar, that film, I don't think. You've got to feel a little bad for the guy.
Before we wrap up, as a special treat for fans today, we have an exclusive, never before seen first look at VHS 94. Let's take a look.
What are you doing? What? What's going on?
I think someone's here. Come on.
Thanks for watching the VHS 94 panel at Comic-Con at Home 2021. VHS 94 streams exclusively on Shudder this fall. Stay safe, everyone, and thank you to all of our guests for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.